primary ways that we usually talk about accessing Google Drive. Google Drive on the web, and that's the web-based interface for Google Drive. And then Google Drive File Stream, which is what looks just like a folder on your computer on a Windows machine. For those of you using File Stream, you would organize your Google Drive just like you would any other folders in files on your Windows machine. But Google Drive on the web, I think by default doesn't necessarily look the most user-friendly. It's kind of an awkward, oddly laid out graphical interface. But we can fix that. There's a few things that you can do to really organize it and make it a little bit more adaptable to what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So let's take a look at how we can clean up our Google Drives, organize them a little bit better. So I'm logged in as John Zumwalt over here, and he's got some files and folders, and there's a couple things that I want to do right off the top. So by default, they have this listed in what is called grid view. So if you see the folders down here, we have kind of pictures of the folders. It's not really just a list of folders like we're used to thinking in a Windows environment. So we can change that. Up here in the upper right hand corner, you can see if I hover over it, there's an option for list view. So if I click on list view, now I have my folders in a list for me, and it has the details next to them. If I had files here, I'd also see my files. Shows the owner, shows the last modified time. It'll show my file size for files. Now, I still have this quick access section up here, and these are files that I've most recently accessed. That's great, and there are times when that's useful. For me, it just kind of gets in the way of what I'm trying to accomplish, which is just a basic, I'm looking at my files and I want to try and accomplish what I usually do on a Windows machine. So I'm going to click on the gear and go into settings. And when I look in here, if I scroll down just a little ways, I get this right here, suggestions, make relevant files handy. And I'm going to uncheck that box and click done. So that gets rid of that quick access section that we've talked about up at the top. And this is starting to look a little bit more like a Windows layout. And what's great is, so when I go to Google Drive on my Chromebook, or if I'm on an iPad using the Google Drive app, all that kind of stuff, the changes that I make here are also applying over in those locations. So that just helps make it easier for me to use all around. So what's a couple other things we can do? I prefer to have my folders and files sorted by file name, and so you can see this little arrow up here. That is defining what it's sorting by. So right now it's in alphabetical order. I could reverse that if I wanted to, so then it puts the last letter at the top. You can also sort by modified date. So if you wanted to, you could change it to last modified by me, all that kind of stuff. So you can change those kind of settings. But that's not really what I want to get into. I want to try and organize a little bit or make these easier to access. So there's really two big things that I would recommend for you. One is you can change the colors of all these folders. So if I wanted to make these a little bit easier to recognize just coming in here, I could say, you know, ELA is going to be a green folder, and my math folder is going to be blue, and my science folder is going to be red. You know, I can make those kind of distinguishing marks here so it's easier to find my folders. One other thing we can do is add icons. In the notes of this video, I've got a link to a website. It's the Emojipedia site. And it's just emojipedia.org. But what's nice about this is you can search for any emojis, and let's think about those related to what we're trying to do. So I've got a science folder. I want to find something related to science, so I'm going to do a search for that. And you know what? A microscope, that's kind of cool. I'll use that icon there. So I'm going to click on microscope and come down, and here's what that icon looks like. And I'm going to click on the copy button. When I come back over to my Google Drive, think of these emojis, by the way, as just a text character. So the way we would use that is not like I can click a add icon button here, but what I can do is rename my folder, and I have my text. I'm going to put a space in here, and then I am going to paste my text. And now you can see I've got a microscope right here in the title of my folder. So I'm going to click OK, and now I get a great little icon next to my folder. So now I can find icons for my other folders. We'll just take math as an example. I'm just going to type math in and see what I get. Oh, there's a couple to choose from. So I'm going to choose the division sign. That'll be something that's kind of simple. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to come over and I'm going to rename my math folder and add in that symbol. So I can go through here, kind of get these looking nice. Now, if you do this and you use Google Drive File Stream, that's fine. It's not going to break anything. What you won't get in your folder on Windows, you won't see the colors, and the icons are just going to look, you're just going to get a square. because Windows doesn't know how to make these symbols appear. This is really focused on the web interface for Google Drive. One last thing I want to talk about around organizing your Google Drive folders, and that has to do with shared files. So you're frequently going to get files that are shared to you that's owned by someone else. And those are going to show up over here in your shared with me folder. Now, initially, you're going to get an email as well. And I hear from a lot of people that say, I only know how to get to that file by finding that email that was originally sent to me. And that's great. I understand that. But there's also the shared with me folder that's going to show you everything that's been shared with you by others. But there's one other step that we can take. So I've got a file here that's been shared. It's called backup jobs here. Now, it lives over here in the shared with me. It's not owned by me. But what I can do is add it to my drive. Now, this doesn't make a copy of that file. It doesn't create a whole nother instance of that file, anything like that. All it's doing is creating a link for this file inside of my drive. So now that I've added it, I can go to my drive, and you see here's backup jobs right here in the list of files that I've got. So I can organize this. I can throw it into my fun stuff folder. When I come in here, here's my backup jobs file. And again, this is just a link to a file that actually is owned by and exists in another user's Google Drive. So this allows me to organize it without having to remember to go back to that shared with me all the time to find my common files, but makes it easy for me to access and makes this visible within my Google Drive file stream now because it's inside of my drive. That link exists where I want it to be at inside of my folders, so it's much easier to access. So just a few quick little tips on how you can organize your Google Drive and hopefully make it a little bit easier for you.